should we start and do a quick introduction, because some of us don't know some people, and let's dedicate 30 seconds for everyone to introduce yourself. And I will start. I'm Sergey.
Well, I was actually going to ask, could you also include a little bit about your experience with leading virtual meetings? Kind of what's a challenge that you have? That would help me.
This is really good. Yeah, this is really good idea. So, yeah, everyone should bring this and explain. So my name is Sergey. I'm working since last week in a company called WAG. I just started a new job. Happy to be here. Thank you, Paul, for linking me with Marie. My experience with virtual meetings, at least 3-4 times a day, I have virtual meetings. Some of them I facilitate, some of them I just join as a member. Can you go on mute if you don't talk?
No, but I will take the baton which you have left dangling in the air, because I've picked up some tips on Boots. So, can everyone hear me okay? Good. So, my name's Paul. I co-lead the Amsterdam user group with a number of others, I know who's on the call, for instance. And I'm very experienced in virtual meetings now. So, I'm particularly focused on larger meetings, 25. So far, I've done 13 and 15 and 20 people, but I'm also interested in what happens when you get to the 50 mark. And I'm very experienced because I've now led 3 virtual meetings, or co-led 3 virtual meetings. Particular challenge that I have, and it may be pertinent to the Dutch community or just how I lead the group, is making sure that everyone has equitable amounts of time, so that some people, and I am as guilty of this as I am probably one of the most guilty of this, but there are community members who are also guilty, dominate the proceedings. They have input to add, they have expertise, but we try and lead a very inclusive environment so everyone has time to speak. And it's about how to facilitate and make that space. That's the first challenge. The second challenge, again, that's true of all communities, I'm sure. The second challenge that, sorry, just checking I wasn't interrupting the other half. Second challenge that we have is that people are quite quiet in the Dutch community, and that some people aren't prepared to share their experience that they have. So we ask what successes people have, and people are very modest, and trying to get them to expand on what they've done and encourage that atmosphere takes a long amount of time. So I'm interested because we ask people to share what successes they had. They're very brief, and I'm wanting skills to try and do that in the community groups that we've run. It's taken a few years to get people to that stage. I'm less patient now. I want to get this faster in the virtual groups. So those are my 2 things that I'm looking to get out of today. And I'm going to pass the baton on. So I think, just looking through the list, we've got Thomas on the line.
I'm the co-founder of CB Remarkable. That's a niche consulting partner of Salesforce, focusing on the niche finance, to bridge the gap between finance and IT with Salesforce and Financial Force. And I am the co-leader of the user group in Groningen. And to be honest, I do not have any experience in hosting a online or a webinar. So I'm here to grab the best practices, mostly.
And decide who will speak next. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, John. Maybe you can share next.
is ook mogelijk. En zelfs een afspraak met een dokter.
John. John?
Maybe I can, in the meanwhile, speak. So, hi, my name is Atta, and I'm the developer group leader. Talking about the experience with like webinars or online virtual meetings. We did one meeting 2 days back. It was really short, but one of the things that I found a bit difficult is making that personal touch that we do when we are in person. It's pretty difficult to talk to everyone, because if the group size increases, even hi and hello might take you half an hour. So how how do we deal with that situation? That would be my main focus, like how to make personal connections and how to feel everyone included.
Now maybe John?
Next, Tanya, maybe.
So, hi everyone, can you hear me? Great. My name is Tanya. I'm a Salesforce admin and co-leader of Amsterdam User Group together with Paul here, and Justine, I believe, is also there. So yeah, I have, especially in these last month and a half, I think, some experience in leading user group virtual meetings and also at work. So I have, not to repeat what already Paul said, how do you moderate and be assertive, but also tactful enough to interrupt someone when they are taking over the conversation or going over the time. And also second one, I think, which is a bit different than just a user group meeting, or how do you effectively give a presentation to people who, because it's a very different situation, because if you're physically there, you see the reactions, it's much more dynamic. So how does that work, that you still feel the energy from the people and give back the energy? I think that's for me. So, yeah, and now maybe we can go back to John to see if...
Don't hear you, John. You're mute. Wait, unmute. Yeah, talk now. We still don't hear you. No, we cannot hear you. Something with audio. Maybe try to connect with second device. John is typing. Problem with audio is my Jabra doesn't connect.
Why don't you just use your laptop for audio as well?
He hear everyone. So let's move to Bart.
Okay, yes. Okay, my name is Bart. I'm hosting the Salesforce Saturday in Veenendaal. And I had one experience with hosting a virtual meeting earlier this month, which was quite nice. And the challenge is, I think it was mentioned already, the dynamics of a online meeting are completely different than when you're meeting face to face. First of all, because we have a small group and there is more interaction, it feels like an open space where we can share and learn. And the virtual meeting we did was more like a presentation with some questions. It's a bit more static. So that's the difference, I guess, but it would be good to elaborate a bit more about how we maybe can do it in a different way. Thank you. And now up to JK.
Gosh, it's me. Hi, I'm Justina, co-leader of Amsterdam Group, for the moment a quiet co-leader. So I will be like sponge, whatever you tell me. We just started with the virtual meetings, so I am struggling. That's why I'm being silent. So any tips, anything that can help. I will appreciate. Thank you. Let's see if I can see who is there on the. Up. That's all, no? Or I'm not seeing anyone. Someone. I will not come back to John, but.
So I'm John. I'm strong man. I'm admin, and I'm looking forward to learn as much as I can about virtual meetings. Yeah, I think I would add to my challenges. It's about how to make active participation from your attendees, if it's business or community meeting, how to actually make it interactive. And I saw a couple of examples how it's done with different tooling. Yeah, I'm curious to hear opinions how to do it. How not to do webinar, how to do it more really like a meeting, because webinar is yeah, it's, I think everyone has understanding what is webinar, but how to do participative meeting, this is a challenge.
Okay, so is it safe to say let's focus on kind of the user group type of scenario, not our general business meeting or sales presentation or things like that?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Nice. So unfortunately, because I'm having to join on the phone, I'm not getting the multi-screen display. So please bear with me. So my name is Marie van Roekel. I moved to the Netherlands at the end of August last year. So I live in Ada, so not far from you, Bart. And I have been working from home for over about 10 years now. I see Paul is sending some chats, so let me get that opened up.
So the chats are just pointing out that we can all now unself-mute. So when we want to contribute and ask questions, it's not just we have to be silent. We can ask directly and interrupt.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hi.
So with the community meetings, knowing that you have the kind of your very vocal participants and then others that maybe have thoughts but aren't necessarily willing to voice them, that's where you can use ground rules. You know, maybe you have a timer when it's time for open discussion to give someone 2 minutes to frame their thought, for example. That way, if somebody starts to go over, you can say, okay, your time's up, we need to move on. So it's not you cutting them off, it's the timer. Go ahead, Paul.
No, sorry, that was the speaker. Oh, that's a great idea. Sorry. Okay. That's why I was raising my hand.
Yeah. Now, for people, you know, not everyone is going to be interested in speaking up. But if you know, since you probably know your audience pretty well, at least your regular attendees, if you know people have experiences that maybe they should share, call on them. You know, whenever I'm leading sessions, if I know there's somebody that's being really quiet, but I want to include them, I will call them and say, hey, do you agree with this? Do you have another point of view? Do you know others that have had a different experience? So instead of it necessarily calling them out as an individual, you're asking for their input. You're asking maybe for them to share something they've heard from someone else. So back to Paul's point that some people don't want to brag about themselves. Well, what if they heard from others? It's a little safer than what's your personal experience. The other thing is give people different feedback mechanisms. Ask them, you know, to use a poll to respond, or raise a hand, or, you know, depending on which tool you're using, you know, Zoom has where people can annotate. They can do little check marks on the screen if you're sharing a screen. I know WebEx has polls, so does Zoom. So you can use that to do a quick pulse on the room, the virtual room. For those of you that have done business meetings, other tools that you've used in business meetings that work for you. Thoughts, comments? maybe Sergey, since you said you have done other types of meetings virtually?
Paul's.
See what I did there?
Yeah. The one meeting that I really liked is about using collaboration tool called Miro, where there was a team activity to everyone was able to connect via URL, and then you can put sticky notes on some idea board, and then everyone was able to vote on ideas, to have like 3 votes and put on them, and it was super interactive, and also the ability to see what other people are doing on the whiteboard in real time is super cool. So this is really impressive.
Google, Google has a product called Jamboard. If you're using Google products, that does some similar things. You can use, I don't remember the names of the tools, but there are like little participant polls where you publish a URL to the group. Everybody can open it on their mobile phone, and you can do quizzes, kind of ask, quick questions. If you're covering some content and you want to check if people have taken the thing away from what you presented as part of the meeting, or if you want to see, are you going fast enough? Are you going slow enough? I'm not sure, Bart, if it was Kahoot or something else. I'd have to dig it up. It's not one I've recently used, but it was in some trainings I did a year ago.
So we have Menti for because Kahoot now is you need to pay for it. So it's our option for our user group. We have it. So if you need access, please contact me, Paul, or someone else, and then we will give you access. Right?
Okay.
For the year, I think.
Paul, we don't hear you. You're on mute. Unmute yourself.
That's because I pressed the wrong button. Sorry, thanks, Sergey. We don't have a tool about fast or slow, although those buttons do exist on.
But you can ask a question.
Yeah.
So let's say you're talking about a topic, or you have someone presenting, and they've presented, let's say, 3 or 4 slides on the topic, or they've spoken for 5 minutes. Do a quick check, and you can use a survey tool where people can quickly say, going too fast, going too slow, just right. And if it's anonymous, right, that gives people some safety to give you feedback versus their name being attached to it. So it's find that blend of anonymous versus named. Because just like when I'm facilitating in person, I make sure I have exercises that allow the quiet people to raise their voice by writing things down, right? Or doing it in a smaller group. Virtually, we want to try to give those same types of mechanisms. Now, granted, you can't necessarily break out to a smaller group as easily in a video conference call, but you can at least give them other mechanisms to give that feedback. Some of them have ask a question features or raise your hand features. Make sure you have somebody that's working with you to monitor those things while you are trying to be the leader on the phone, right, or on the call. That will take the pressure off of you. Right now, I'm trying to watch the chat, but because I'm forced to do it from my phone, I'm struggling, right? So having someone to co-lead with you will definitely help in that situation. When I've been doing webinars, we have one person that does the introductions, one person may present, and a third person does the demo piece. Well, whoever is speaking, the other 2 are monitoring the questions. They're monitoring, if there's going to be a survey sent out, they're the ones monitoring the technology piece of the session. That way the person speaking can focus on the speaking. and moderating the tone, moderating the speech, changing their voice to make it interesting. Now, these are all things we have to be aware of about ourselves in these virtual settings. So to sum it back up, right? Sum it back up. Give people safe ways to provide anonymous versus named feedback. Have someone with you to help monitor the various tools you're going to be using. And then, of course, working on how you are presenting, your voice, your tone, the speed. Do some people like it slower? Some people like to speak faster. Be aware of the audience and how. Generally, you will need to slow down on a virtual session to give people time to process what you've just said, because they may not see your lips moving, which they need. You know, for me, if I'm in a session with people from multiple language backgrounds, they need an extra moment to process what I'm saying. And I need a moment when they speak to process what they're saying. Thoughts, other comments, observations.
Yeah, I have a comment. So, yeah, I mean, I really like that, and it's, I think, the way to do it, because if I look at our last two virtual social meetings, we went kind of, okay, it's very informal, there are no rules. I think that can get out of hand, and that's where you get those people who overtake and just kind of, or are very opinionated, and then people who might not, it's not that they don't want to speak, but they just kind of don't have the space actually to voice. So I really think that's the way to kind of bring the structure. It's really necessary. So yeah, I really like those suggestions.
And be okay with silence. Because sometimes people may be struggling to find the unmute button. You know, or they may be speaking and then they realize, wait a minute, nobody's reacting. And then they realize, oh, mute button.
So this is really good for me. So all this silence, do you just get used to the extended silence? I'm just from the background where I'm not used to silence.
It's hard for me.
And thinking aloud here, do you help manage people's expectations by saying that there will be some silence?
I haven't, but I think that is worth calling out. You know, that silence is okay. And I generally will give it, you know, maybe like a 3 beat if I don't hear anything. Like if I ask a question, I get no response. I've waited 3 beats. I will make a joke. I'll say, so if you're, you know, talking on mute, I can't hear you. Could you please check your mute button? Right? So I try to add humor. So, and again, making it safe, that it's okay. We're all here trying to figure this out. You know, it doesn't always work. I was on a call earlier today. I had a horrible internet connection, and I was trying to explain some topics to a group of people that needed to hear it, and they weren't getting it. And so unfortunately, we had to resort back to email. But it's that being, you know, allow there to be mistakes, allow there to be silence. If there, you know, if someone is dominating the conversation, you know, hey, thank you for that input. Let's see if someone else has something to add now. You know, use those transitions that you would normally use in person. Those skills are still applicable. We just have to give a little more time, a little more space, and be a little firmer. Ata, how about you? As the group increases, you know, it does get hard.
Yeah, exactly. And then there is someone who is always trying to take up the conversation in some other direction, and then everyone loses spot.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, it sometimes the person speaking is so fast you can't really stop him,
Mm-hmm.
and to just don't make it awkward, you have to listen to him unless he takes a pause, and then you can take over.
And let me ask this, is the interrupting someone to make them stop, is some of that a cultural reluctance? As in some countries, it's considered very rude to interrupt someone when they're speaking, even when everyone wants to interrupt them.
Okay, so how do we deal with that then?
Well, I'm asking, all of you are here, you probably have a better sense of how it is working in the Netherlands than I do. What's your experience in person?
Okay. Sorry.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay. So I am prepared to do it. I am always prepared to be the fool guy for the team, but I normally only do it when I feel that at least 50% or 75% of the audience is probably on my side. It does not make me feel comfortable, but sometimes I think we need to do it for everyone's sanity. But when it comes to tact, that's not one of my skill sets, and it's something I'm still working on, as everyone here can attest.
So this is where having that leader that's acting as a timekeeper comes in handy. Because they're the ones that can chime in, right, and say, hey guys, we're at the end of our time for this part of the discussion, for example. Or, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's a great point. Let's take that to a different communication channel, right? Let's take that to another session. Let's take that to Chatter. Let's take that somewhere else. We need to move on.
Or we could just say, hi guys, just doing my normal moderator thing of, I think we're straying away from the core topic, so we'll come back to that one later. But I guess say blame the process rather than blaming the individuals. It's like I'm saying that some people say they don't mean to dominate the conversation. It's just natural characteristics. You don't blame anyone individually, but I'm just saying this is the process. We must all be aware of that, and then you're not making it personal. I think the key point here is that what I'm getting from her is don't make it personal. Think whatever excuse you can, but don't make it personal, because then that's a very negative emotion, and it doesn't have to be negative. It's about making the meeting enjoyable for everyone.
I kind of agree with you, Paul, by the way, on this one.
So agree or disagree?
Agree. I strongly agree.
How many people did you have at your last meeting, Atta?
We had 16 people. It was not a big turnout. I'm not sure why, because there were around 50 signups. I was expecting more people, but maybe it's just probably the timing that we had, 6:30. We are discussing about it. Maybe we can have the meetings in such a time frame. It was just for an hour. If we can move it in such a time frame that many people are off. I think 6:30 to 7:30 was a time where people generally are preparing dinner or something, so it was not a good timing. That's my perception.
This is just for the benefit of everyone, not necessarily about this point, very sorry to be off topic, but it's important, even if we get less people turning up than normal, it's very important to run these, because we don't know who in the community is really going to appreciate these meetings, who haven't got the opportunity to speak, who might be at home for the entire day, who might just be stressed by the situation because normally they're looking after kids while allegedly having to work, and this might just be their time out. So if we get less people than we would have at an in-person meeting, I'm personally strongly of the opinion that it's still really worthwhile doing.
I always say it's not about quantity, about quality of interaction. So with 10 people, you can have excellent user group meeting, and with 50, you can have terrible. So for me, yeah, sorry, this is my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to ask Tanya, you were mentioning how to effectively give a presentation since you can't see the reactions, getting the energy from the room.
Yeah, that's. I just had an example. For example, today I had a training with users, and it's kind of because, as you also mentioned, your tone of voice. I noticed that my tone of voice becomes kind of lower, and it goes into this, monotonous tone. I notice it. So if I notice it, then my users are going like, "Oh God, I'm gonna die here." So that's kind of because you don't have any interaction, you don't get that energy from them. So maybe now I'm getting maybe that using those polls or things like that just to kind of make a little break or things like that.
Yeah, one of the things I typically see when, if I have a presentation I'm giving in person, it's a lot easier to pause naturally and see, oh, someone has a puzzled look on their face or someone's smiling and nodding at me. It's a lot easier. So what you have to do is pause more often and ask. Ask to see if that feedback is there. And that goes back to where I was saying, if you have polls or ways to get people interacting with you to get that speed up, slow down, it's just right type of feedback. And be ready, people may start asking questions then. So that's where you need to go back to your ground rules. Do you want them to ask questions in the middle or not? Right? Because on the one hand, you probably do if something is, if they need you to spend a few more moments explaining something.
Yes.
So some of that goes back to the tools. Some of it, I see you raising your finger, Paul. 1 second. But again, it's that being conscious. There we go. There's a poll.
Very nice.
So, but those are things you can do intentionally. Some of the tools will allow you to create your polls ahead of time. You can also just a quick, around the room. If you have a couple people that you have a history with, that maybe have struggled in the past with participating, quick, hey, how's my speed? But also have somebody, all these tools have a chat. So get your co-leader to post things in the chat. Check if people, do it that way as well. It doesn't just have to be you stopping and asking all the time.
I guess it's just adapting a bit. What you would normally do in a face-to-face presentation is just rethinking to use the same strategies, because basically they're the same strategies, but just in the virtual environment. So it's kind of preparing in that sense that, because I would stop during the normal presentation. But the thing is, in the normal presentation, in face-to-face, I would kind of see the reactions and I would know when it's time to pause or ask. And especially if I'm sharing my screen, I don't see them. It's very much blind presentation. So I think that's why it's so important to do those stops and check in with the audience.
And get somebody else to watch the faces for you.
Yep.
Because
very good one.
They could check in with those people, in the chat or private chat, or they could say, hey, Tanya, I think we may have some questions.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah.
And that way you work together, because when I'm presenting my screen, if I'm on just my laptop and I'm not in my dual monitor setup, I can't see anything. Or if I'm having to do it from my phone, I can't see everything. So have a buddy, definitely. And with your larger sessions, unfortunately, once you get past kind of the 10 to 15 people, it does become more of a presentation and less of an interaction. Now, that's not to say you can't make it interactive but having the verbal interaction becomes really difficult.
Yeah,
So,
very true.
Yeah.
For Atta, your point, you're trying to do it with larger groups. I would suggest, if you're wanting more personal interactions, try to have smaller groups sessions. Maybe you do your sessions at different times, more of the social. I do a coffee talk once a month, and there are about 20 of us on it, and we'll get on some crazy topic, and most people are just kind of listening, and it's just a way to hear what's on other people's minds or what they're experiencing. But then other times, everybody's participating, and that's okay, because that is purely a social hour. It's not, there's no agenda there at all. But if you're trying to lead something where you're trying to share knowledge, it will have to be more curated, more managed in the virtual sense.
Marie, just picking up on a point to check that I've understood, I think where the
Yes.
conversation's gone to. For people doing presentations, basically to have it all fed through a colleague who can then interrupt you. If you can't see what's happening, have one trusted other individual to channel that energy and to make the call of when things should be interrupted or not interrupted.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you as the presenter can still, put in your own pauses, right? But you're not able to monitor all the faces, especially if you've got 10 or 12 people, and your screen share, and your speaker notes probably that you're reading from, and any note taking that you're trying to do at the same time. So you do need to have at least one other person there to help you. Thomas, how about you? You were mentioning you've not really done this before, so does any of this seem to resonate? Anything that you would normally do in person that you're still trying to figure out how to do?
Oh, definitely. I think the in-person presentations, you can use the skills you use during in-person presentations, definitely. And I think to add on the tips and tricks, yesterday I had a presentation, and they used they made use of the chat functionality of the program very well. So there was a simple yes or no question. And they just asked to please answer it in the chat functionality, and that worked pretty well. So I think that's a good one to add, definitely. But yeah, and the 7th of May, I'm hosting my first webinar. Exactly.
User group.
Yeah, user group. Yeah. User group webinar. So I'm looking forward to use all these tips and tricks, and hoping it works out well.
Okay. And definitely adapt it to your style, right? This is, what works for one of us may not work for you, because that's just not how you work.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to stay really close to yourself and adapt to what really fits your, I think mostly your personality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And making use of these silences, I think that's a very smart thing to do, because it triggers me to just keep on speaking and speaking. So I think that is one takeaway I'm definitely going to use in the webinar, the 7th of May.
Good. Did John get his microphone working by chance? If not, maybe he has some things he wants to throw in the chat.
Don't hear you. John, you're on mute. Let me unmute you. Oh, you're on mute. No. Добре.
Yeah, he's not muted, but we're not hearing you. So are there any questions or thoughts? Please, we'll wait for you to type them out.
Type to us, John. We can hear you.
Okay, so one thing I will say, if you have to do any sort of presentation or demonstration, have backups. I've had multiple times where the deck someone wanted to present, for whatever reason, couldn't be shared. They couldn't get to it because it was on a cloud service, or their internet went down and now they were having to do it from their phone. Have backups. I've had to do that where, thank goodness for Google Drive, I was able to get hold of something on my phone and use my mobile data connection to present. If you're going to do a demo, have screenshots ready in a presentation to show if for some reason you cannot connect to the system to do the demo.
Would you recommend to record a demo?
Explain.
Yeah, usually you do demo live, but just in case you cannot connect, you can put recording and then just use recording as a demo.
I'm not sure how well a recording would play over a video conference. Usually what I do is take screenshots and put into a presentation deck, and I have that ready to show. So when I did a webinar last year showing a bunch of setting up process builders and flows, I went through and took screenshots step by step of what I was going to demonstrate. One that let me confirm my demo was solid and my talk track to go with it was solid. It also gave me a backup that I shared with my co-presenters as well in case for some reason I could not do the demonstration. And then we were actually able, after the fact, take those screenshots and use them for other purposes as well.
But because screenshots, people see that they're screenshots, not demo. You just... Yes.
And I would totally say, guess what? I meant to do a live demo. I'm not able to, so we're going to use the screenshots for now.
Yeah.
And then if you want to record a demo later and share that after the fact, let's say with a link to the recording or with a copy of the slides and things like that, yes, you have it then to share. But at least generally with a demo, you're trying to show the flow of the screens and how the data would be entered and what the output is, right? Or what the user experience would be like, or what the underlying setup looks like. So just having that backup.
But it's also, I think that's, hi, Justina again. Wow, I'm talking. I participated in one training from Gemma, and she did the mini demo thing. So for example, she wanted to show something and to make sure that if you have limited time for a presentation, like an hour, and you want to make sure that it's, you don't have to refresh the page and stuff like that. She included 20 seconds videos about something she was doing, how to share a report, I think. And like that, she played it and she could talk, oh, I'm doing that here. And so she was prepared that she didn't have to click and wait to reload or stuff like that. So of course, this is a backup of the live demo, but the print screens would be the plan C in case something is going on badly with the recording, of course.
Yeah, I've just personally never tried to share a recording through a video conference. So if it works, awesome. By all means, use it.
I did discover just the other day that on Zoom, when you click share screen, there's a box at the bottom which says share media and share audio, and that's not normally ticked. You literally just, when you press share screen, it's there to tick, and it seems to work okay. Obviously, I wouldn't necessarily want to do it on high bandwidth things, but it seemed to work, to be honest. I just wanted to reflect what we did the last couple of times at AUG in terms of backups. When we sent out the invitations, we said if anyone has a technical problem, call in on this number. And we gave one person's mobile as the backup number. I wouldn't want to publish that on a website, but because it was going out by email and we know the group is going to 30, 40, 50 people, that wasn't a problem. And what we did is I actually had Ellie, my husband, as the backup person. So he wasn't participating in the evening, but he could tap on my shoulder if there was any problems. And there wasn't any problems. But it's a way of giving people reassurance. And equally, when presentations are going on, we always have a back channel, whether it's Slack or WhatsApp, so we can, or just messaging each other, so we can say, do you think we should stop now? Do we need to break? Is this too much content? So we always have a backup. We always have some sort of back channel between the presenters.
You just have to be careful if you're screen sharing that those things don't show up on the screen.
Oh yeah. Today I saw Salesforce people presenting something. And then they were switching between two solution engineers screen, and on one screen there was I think Slack, and that meeting was recorded. So basically, I think they will edit a meeting before they share with the attendees, and they will remove that screenshot. But it's extra work,
oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
So what I do usually, I have I close all application, all notification. I have even profile on my MacBook without everything is blocked. So if I do very type of serious meeting, I log into that profile where there are no possibility to something to showing up suddenly, and then it depends also on type of meeting, but I like the idea to have a backup, maybe also practice and know your tooling, if you can put video recording or not, if you put screenshots, play this scenario how you do it with screenshots. Maybe that even maybe even to print it and then you can show on a camera. Once I will tell you a story. Once I went to the very serious meeting in Moscow to some big bank, and then we ended in the room. There was no beamer. And we printed slides. We had like 5 copies of printed slides, and then we gave everyone slides, and then we were talking over the slides on low tech. So yeah.
Yes. I had a very similar experience, brought all the trainers in to train them, and the power went out in the building. And they were about to say, oh, well, we can't do this. I said, actually, I brought printouts of my entire presentation and all the training materials. We're going. So being prepared. Let me just check the notes I took at the beginning, see if we've covered everything that you brought up initially. So, anything else that you want to talk about? Any other tips you're looking for, scenarios maybe?
Maybe you already covered it, but I think it's also good to have clear expectation management. So beforehand, that you have a clear agenda, that people know what to expect, and because not everyone has the same expectations from a user group meeting. So to keep the audience focused and that they get something out of it that they are expecting to get.
Yes, and on that theme, whoever's going to be presenting, if you have partners coming in to present, customers, whoever's presenting, make sure you go through their presentation with them before the session, so that you as the group leader know what they're planning to present, know how they are at presenting. Is there space for people to give feedback during the presentation? How are you going to monitor the feedback? What are the feedback mechanisms? Because some of your presenters may not be used to doing the type of presentation you are expecting for your user group in a virtual situation. Does that make sense?
Oh yes, so many car crashes we've learned.
Yeah, I want to come back to Bart's comment about clear agenda, maybe also clear housekeeping rules. I was recently on some virtual meeting, and in the beginning they explained how to use the tool they were using for virtual meeting. It was Zoom, so they said, yeah, you want to ask question, please raise a hand. This is how you do it. This is how you can see all attendees in one view. You click here. And then it was really easy for people who potentially saw Zoom for the first time, know exactly how to manage it. And it was a really good idea, because then it's very clear. Want to ask question, raise the hand, and then in order how people raise their hands, they will be handled, the questions.
Right.
Because sometimes can be 5 people want to ask questions, and then you need to also manage the order who raised first. So this is why a role of moderator is important to see.
Yes. Yes.
So
just like any meeting, right? Any meeting, you have your ground rules. You have, back to one of the earlier topics, if someone is bringing up a topic that's not really appropriate, and we don't want to spend more time on it, having your parking lot, just like you would in a normal in-person meeting, where you capture those topics to discuss later. And then someone that is keeping track of the time, someone that is keeping track of the agenda. It's one of those things, tell people up front what you're going to do. Tell them again, do it as you're doing it. Tell them what you're doing, and then tell them what you've done at the end. So you're kind of reinforcing, here are the rules, here's what we're talking about, here's what we're going to talk about, here's what we have spoken about.
And thinking about it, that's how we create the safe space. That's what we've done at Amsterdam User Group. We've said this is a friendly, open space where we're not in competition with each other. And immediately it sets that tone that then everyone who walks through the door understands what it's about and what we're trying to achieve. I have one to throw out to you, and I don't know if there's an answer for this. So if you're doing a technical presentation, so some things are social, some of them are presentation based. If we're doing a technical presentation at a normal user group in-person event, there's 15 minutes where people can, well, there's actually an hour where people can just socialize. How do you, if people just attend and can answer questions, so it's a bit more than a webinar, they can interact and it's a small group, how do you create that water cooler moment? You don't have time for everyone to say how they are. You don't have time for 25 people on screen to say how they are. How can you create an essence of some of that informality?
Go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately I use WebEx, but I tried recently this Zoom feature, breakout rooms, where you split, let's say we are 20 people, and then there is very easy way to split people in small groups, 3 or 4 people. And then of course you need to invent some activity, like let's say go and discuss your favorite Salesforce feature in 3 minutes, and then one from the small group will represent group and explain to other people. And then you give them 3 minutes, you put them 4 people in a small mini Zoom, they talk to each other, they interact, and then this is a way to do it with technology, with tools like Zoom or WebEx. Unfortunately, here there is no this possibility, but in Zoom, that Bart we have license. It's an option that we need to enable an account, and then you have a button. You click the button. You say how many people go to every virtual breakout room, and you say how much time they will spend, and then you need to facilitate this basically, and then people can talk to each other in small groups, and there will be real, not like physical interaction, but close, in my opinion, because I was as a participant recently. And it worked really well. We were 3 people in a group, and then we were talking, and really nice. I don't see any other option because you cannot do it as a big group.
Yeah, I think it's also important to realize that it is not the real thing. So we can't actually replicate what we have in person to person. So it's kind of, yeah, exactly, Paul, I know. So I think it's adjusting and adapting to what we have, but not really wanting to replicate exactly what we would have in a real life meeting.
We should strive.
Yes, exactly.
But you can still use the chat features, for some of that. If you're able to start the meeting ahead of time, some people may want to just chat informally, kind of like we are. Others may use the text chat. It is difficult because you're across such a diverse team, a diverse group of people. Yeah, it's challenging. I could think of a few ways to try, but I don't know how well those would.
Give a few suggestions. It's not going to cause any harm, probably.
WhatsApp groups. That the WhatsApp group is for the, just the chatting. Seems a decent number of people are using WhatsApp.
We will invite you.
You're about to get spammed.
Yeah.
Any other? So that was one suggestion. Any other suggestions, Marie? if you've heard of any.
Well, you do have your community user groups. Could you do something there? Right.
So I guess my point is during the meeting, so Sergey suggested to do a group activity.
The Zoom breakouts.
So it sounds plausible, but for that water cooler moment for 10 or 15 minutes. So I think going with a starting thing, but the end thing doesn't quite work so well. So maybe a start thing, because then those people opt in at the beginning. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Or you can leave the meeting open for a little bit, and let people, again, just chatting or exchange phone numbers or, something where they can have their one-off conversation. The thing is, I think Tanya's statement was pretty accurate. This is virtual. We can't fully recreate the in-person. So we do the best we can.
I'm going to add the word yet. I think we're all still learning skills at this game. I am optimistic. The candidate that comes to mind is someone who's new to the group, because they won't then feel as comfortable to be part of that conversation, I suspect.
Well, and it also goes back to the whole, how do you engage people? Some people are perfectly comfortable chatting online. Others aren't. So giving them safe spaces to provide that feedback, right? And respecting privacy, because I know that's another big thing. You don't want to just give out everyone's email and phone numbers without their permissions, right? Paul?
I was about to say, I give people the option of fist bumps these days. If they're really quick, they get a fist bump rather than a hug. But they have to be really quick and prepped in advance, basically. I don't think I've given out your details without your permission.
I was not complaining.
Oh. La la. Oh, technical break on the line. La la.
Anything else? Anything you wished we had covered that we didn't cover? Was this useful? Do we want to do another one?
Yeah. I suggest to use WebEx because I found that WebEx now for free for unlimited meetings. So
Yes, it's free.
In the moment, I'm using free WebEx, which is really cool. And I record on my local hard disk, and then I can share via Google Drive. And it's free. Yeah, there are some features that I don't find here, but I need to check. For example, if I can connect iPad and use whiteboard in WebEx, I think it's possible. Then you can draw. I cannot raise hand here. Somehow I'm looking. Then you need to probably again in your meeting protocol to say how to ask question, maybe just via chat. Yeah. I think WebEx because they just recently made it free for unlimited meetings. I think 2 weeks ago or a week ago. It's a really good option because it's secure, much more secure comparing to Zoom.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And there's also GoToMeeting, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, GoToMeeting, yeah.
You know, I would say understand what you want out of the tool. You know, what are the things you want to be able to do? And then see which tool or tools support that. You know, they all have their pluses and minuses. I am not going to say one is better than another because I am by no means an expert on that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
I've shared in the window a link to both the EFF articles about harden your Zoom settings and also the wonderfully written, the best writer in the world, the Your Leading blog on which webinar tool. If you want WebEx, apply now because it takes about a week or two to get your free license to come through.
A couple of days, not that long anymore. I applied and it's like 2-3 days in total because they send first one link and then the other one. So it does take longer than Zoom, definitely.
Tips, accessibility for disabled persons. You know, knowing that you may have blind or deaf people participating, keep those things in mind as well as you are preparing your sessions. Some of the tools do offer closed captioning, others don't. So.
On that note, we're all off mute, just about. Atta's going to take himself off mute, I've decided. Once he finds that. You haven't spoken for ages, Atta. He's still. Yeah, there he goes. Should we all give Marie a round of applause? I love everyone and wish everyone a good night.
Well, thank you all.
Thank
Glad
you.
to help.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a nice evening, all.
Bye-bye.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.